Is there such a thing as soulmates? So the first thing that comes up around that is, yes, there is such a thing as soulmates as we humans understand that, meaning many people, when they think in terms of soulmates, they're actually seeking, is what is coming up. They're seeking a very close relationship, And so in that, if that's what we're using kind of as the definition of soulmates, where it's a really uniquely close relationship. I keep looking for the word comfortable in there, close, comfortable relationship, and they go, oh, no, not, I mean, it certainly can be wonderful and comfortable, but it's not always. So I hope they'll give us some clarification on that. So from the universe's perspective, we're all soulmates, and then that's kind of a ha ha ha. That's a semantic joke from the universe. It's kind of like, well, we're all souls and we're all mates. So in that regard, we're all soulmates. But they understand that we're asking really about those very uniquely, almost like profoundly close relationships. When our spirit reincarnates in a new lifetime, we bring with us the vibrational range, the predominant vibrational range that we had kind of evolved to as a human previously in other lifetimes. So here's, as an example, here's the full range of possible vibrations, although they say there isn't really ever an end to it. It can just keep going forever. But generally, people are going to have a vibrational band somewhere in here. Some of them are down here, some are in the middle, some are moving up higher and higher. So our predominant vibrational range is the one that we will bring into any particular lifetime. And when our vibrational range overlaps very closely with someone else's vibrational range, that's where, even if you've met them just for the first time, you go, oh, I feel like I've known you forever. Oh, it's so easy to talk to you. Oh my goodness, you know, we just really match. And so that is bringing up, well, that explains why that comfort level is there, why that, yes, they're saying, and yes, some people will be asking, are those individuals that we feel particularly compatible with, are they someone we knew in a past life? And the answer is yes, that can be the case. It doesn't have to be the case, but it can be the case. And then showing me the example of often, it's almost like we move through lifetimes as soul groups. And so we would expect in any one lifetime, when we're operating in relation to others in our soul group, some of us make greater advancement in our spiritual growth than others in that soul group. Someone in a soul group may actually move backwards a little bit. And this is all in terms of general vibrational range. So apparently, and then in a new lifetime, when those two people come together, if those two people come together in a new lifetime, they may have actually moved farther apart in their vibrational range, so that they no longer feel that soulmate relationship that they had in the previous lifetime, where their vibrational range was virtually on top of each other. So apparently it's all I see where we're going. So in this lifetime, well, we are supposed to say that people can make progress together, and so they can come back together, still as what we're calling soulmates in this lifetime. They're going to use that as an example of, we're going to have a specific example here. Past life, these two people in a soul group were closely overlapped they were soulmates by our definition. Their vibrational range closely overlapped each other. And in that example, they were brothers in that lifetime. Both of them pass away. They both decide to come back together in a new lifetime. this time one of them is a mother and one is a son. So the soulmates come, and they come over at the same vibration, apparently, as that they had when they left the last lifetime. I want to check on that. They're saying yes, generally. The reason I wanted to check was I know people can kind of like make progress even on the other side, but while they're in between lifetimes, but it's being emphasized that no, we're talking about human existences here. So your human vibrational range in one lifetime is what you start with in the next lifetime when you reincarnate. So in this next lifetime, mom comes here first, and then son comes. There's a very close relationship. During that lifetime, they're just randomly picking mom in that lifetime remains fairly stagnant. She's not working, she's not aware or interested in working on any particular spiritual growth in that lifetime. So she actually is going to remain a little stagnant. Her son, on the other hand, comes in and is very oriented to and fired up to, and experiences in life encourage him to move forward in his spiritual growth. And so they actually move away from each other a little bit. I believe this has to do with you can marry your soulmate and have this wonderful, incredibly close relationship, and you can move apart from each other over a lifetime. In other words, there's no guarantee that if you start out together that you're going to end up together. We always hope that we would, and it's an important thing if we're aware of this issue to communicate with any soulmate in our life and say, let's do this together. I don't want to ever be without you. Let's move forward together. So we're looking at when two people first get together, they've met each other, they feel like they are soulmates, and they're aware of that concept. And they, let's say, get married, which everybody thinks would be the most ideal thing in the world, and it probably is. And then they go forward and get busy with life and get distracted, and children come along, and so on and so on. And they are not careful, I guess you'd say. They are not aware to keep their relationship together. And so they end up out here going, who is this person that I'm married to? Wondering why have things changed so much? It's simply an individual. We're each responsible for our own growth and so on, and one person may be moving faster than the other. All that being said, it doesn't mean that if we don't have this close overlap in vibrational fields, that we can't have a wonderful life together. In other words, people can be, they have to be somewhere close to each other. They're not even going to get together if they're that far apart. But if they're somewhat close together, and hopefully some overlap, you can still have a wonderful, happy, close relationship, even if your vibrations do not overlap to the fullest extent. It just takes awareness, it takes openness, it takes love and compassion. Apparently, you have to work on that relationship to keep it close. So the soulmate aspect of partnerships is not as important as in terms of getting along and long and happy life together, not as important as almost like the loyalty to the relationship, to keep it open, loving, important to both parties in the relationship. This is an example of where you may not live happily ever after in terms of going forward together. But you can still at least start out as soulmates. So here's a specific example. Two individuals meet, and it's like, oh, they've always clicked. They've always known each other. It just feels wonderful, really easy to carry on conversations or to be quiet together. And it turns out that one of the individuals, their life's lesson has to do with learning about maybe both of them. Maybe both of them are learning about manipulating other people. So one of the individuals would be a manipulator, and one individual would be manipulated. Doesn't feel very good for the manipulated person, but a really important life's lessons for both of them. And so that would be a relationship that, assuming that the manipulator does not learn the lesson while they are in contact with the person they're manipulating, assuming that that is the case, that relationship may not feel very good. That relationship may end up going, well, I love you, but I can't live with you, kind of thing. So that can happen as well, keeping in mind that when you look at the bigger picture about that, the manipulated has that opportunity to learn a lesson about manipulation. The manipulator has the opportunity, whether they take it or not, for both of them also to learn. But it ends up like, uncomfortable, not healthy for manipulated. I'm leaving this relationship just to kind of like save themselves under those circumstances. We can have more than one soul, what we would call soulmate. They keep bringing back that we're all soulmates. Okay, but we can have, under our definition of close overlap in vibrational fields, we can have more than one in any one lifetime. And we should kind of look for that, because those relationships are wonderful, and a great deal of what is important is in relationships. So, for example, it can be a mother-child relationship, and in that same lifetime for that mother, she may have a very dear friend that is a soulmate because they overlap, and so on. So you can have, 5 really close soulmates in your lifetime. There's apparently an outer level that we all have access to as well, meaning there's overlap, but it's not as much as what we're using as the definition of true soulmate, who can also be really good friends. Oh, they're saying it could be your boss if you get along really well. There are other people in our lives where there is overlap in that energy field for each of you. I'm just checking to see if and again, they're saying, keep in mind, we're all soulmates. I think that's what we're really supposed to hear here. But it just feels good and more comfortable when we're all on the same wavelength. There's that expression that really expresses what we're talking about here. So you can have different ones, and more than one certainly in your lifetime, and revel in those wonderful relationships. So the aspect of, is it always somebody you've known in a past life? No, not necessarily. When you think globally, there's so many people all over the world, and people have been around for a long, long time. So in one of your lifetimes, you may have been living in Alaska while someone with the same vibrational range was living in South Africa, and you never meet. So some of this has to do with availability, I guess you'd say, and who shows up at the same place at the same time. So the question would be, how can you tell who might be your soulmate in this lifetime? And how can you tell? What comes up right away is you recognize on a almost like visceral level that closeness before you ever compute, oh, is this person my soulmate? You just know, you just feel, you just know that close relationship. They're actually, and then you can think about it and put a label on it, is what they're saying. When it feels that comfortable and easy and overlapping, you're on the same wavelength. I'm checking here. They are indicating, and we all should check in our own practical experience. Oh, do you suppose that's a soulmate relationship? How does it feel? So we can check in on ourselves to put a label on it. The universe, in one respect, is again saying it doesn't really matter. What we're really seeking with this question is, how can I be that close to someone? How can I make that close connection? And that is what is important. Having relationships that we would define as a soulmate relationship, how that feels. And the universe is saying, we have to bring ourselves to the table, you might say, as well as the other person bringing themselves to the table, and both have that interest in the relationship going forward. They're kind of telling us, and that's your soulmate. And the important part would be for each of us as an individual, particularly both individuals in that relationship, to pay attention and be joyful about that close relationship and be aware to keep it going, to keep it on that level, to not lose it. If you do lose it, if one goes this way and one goes that way, we'll survive. But I think what we all want is to be able to go forward together with really, I was going to say a perfect relationship, and they're saying, well, there's no such thing really as a perfect relationship, but to be able to find that joy in the relationship. So in any relationship, so this is where the universe is saying, so I told you we're all soulmates, because we may decide to marry someone or partner with someone because we feel that I can feel the love and excitement and so on, which is not necessarily an indication of soulmates. There are other things going on here. And then you find out, I guess it wasn't quite as close as I thought. But that does not close an overlap as I thought. That does not mean that you cannot go forward happily together. Whether there's that overlap or not, there are still two individuals in this relationship. And as far as the relationship is concerned, ideally, both of those individuals would be focused on the relationship as a positive thing. The relationship, which is almost like this third point out here. They're not focused on themselves. They're not focused on either one of themselves. It's the relationship that underlies their wonderful relationship. And they want to keep that relationship going. So they may have to work things out. How do we talk to each other? I support you, but it's in a way that doesn't work for you. Help me understand that sort of thing. It's I see. It is not a negotiation. It is an understanding out of love. Like, I really want to help and support this other person in the relationship. Help me understand how to do that. Let me see what works for them. So it's it's love, go in that direction that would help, they're telling me, lift up and maintain the person on the other side of the relationship. That's generally a two-way thing. They each support each other out of love and respect. And that's the type of thing that will keep that relationship strong. It builds a strong foundation. There's a phrase of, depositing money in the bank so you can withdraw some and not go broke later. So all of those wonderful relationships are depositing a lot of money in that relationship bank account. So when somebody goes through something difficult, some of that money can be withdrawn and the bank account still stays very viable and whole. So here's an example. Partnership, marriage, that type of relationship where people are directly attracted to each other. And again, it's coming up that awesome feeling of when you first meet somebody is not necessarily an indication of soulmate overlap. But let's say you get together, and so the universe is saying, if you aren't soulmates, it can still work out. But on the other hand, we have the reality to deal with of, let's say one person in that relationship, even if they've realized the support, closeness, wonderful feeling of the relationship, one of them may want to do drugs and the other one doesn't. This would have to do, with the two individuals. We all can make our own choices. So it depends on the individual's strength of character, so to speak, of each of those individuals as to how that goes forward. The one who wants to do drugs may be kind of the leader in light of who the other person is. They're more the follower. They may follow their partner into doing drugs. And at some point in time, one or the other of these folks decides to leave that lifestyle behind. It feels like the other person in this example is not interested, their free will is, no, I want to keep going with the drug habit. And that they may try very hard to keep this other person involved, even when the other person involved is saying, well, for my own health, safety, welfare, being, and growth, I need to leave this behind. what it feels like to me is that individual is developing strength of character actually in that lifetime. The other one is choosing not to at that time, if we're going to call this a strength of character thing. It's really much more complicated than that in terms of drug addiction. If one has enough personal will to leave that type of lifestyle, it can be heartbreaking. It can be, it's mourning. There's a death of the relationship going on here. But it is a free will choice on the part of those two people. If either one of them is saying, well, in order for this, we agreed that we would keep this relationship together, and the only way to do that is by staying on drugs, the other one's saying, no, the only way to do this is not staying on drugs, they have reached an impasse that is an individual decision for each of them, and that can affect the relationship as well. But again, I feel that for the one that's leaving the drug environment, it's really hard because I can feel not only the relationship, which was like a support, is gone or is not available, and just what's going on in their body. It's just really, really hard. But those are the kinds of major experiences that we may have in a lifetime that are going to shape our future and our future lifetime. So it happens here. It's the kind of thing that we don't necessarily ask for that opportunity in a lifetime, but we can get presented with it, and it depends on what we do with that that's going to shape our future.